Narratives in video games have a history of being black and white, but what The Last of Us Part 2 at least tries to narrate makes you uncomfortably connected to a story that you might not really want to be a part of. Last of Us Part 2 has some of the most well designed game environments I've ever seen. You can see how it adopts from the Uncharted series while maintaining its post apocalyptic essence from the previous game. The game uses excessive motion blur, something that can be changed in the options, to make the environment move fluidly. The environment is designed in a way that your surroundings will guide you ever so naturally without really doing it. The combat feels engaging and open. Getting humans to fight infected by creating baits feels effortless. The approach to taking out enemies can be experimented upon and is easy to improvise, something you would be doing quite often than not. Last of Us Part 2 has been called out for being too gory, but for a game whose basic premise is based on zombie-like infected humans, every head being mushed felt ever more satisfying and relevant to me. This maybe tells something about me that I should be looking into. The game also gives you a breather after everyone, infected or human, has been killed in a particular location, something that is much appreciated as it gives you time to scavenge as well as see the environment in detail. Last of Us Part 2 tends to delve deep in playing with several social stigmas, and they do a pretty neat job at doing so. The game recognizes Ellie and Dina as bisexuals and embraces their relation throughout the game. An optional conversation where Dina is inquisitive about rainbow flags and rainbow painted roads on the streets of Seattle basically gives recognition to the LGBTQ movement and how pivotal their role was before the apocalypse. It also recognizes social stereotypes and misconduct based on archaic understanding of what a gender is and is clear in characterizing it as evil. The game uses something as basic as going bald to show how blind faith in a group or cult can sabotage your rationale. The game also shows a new character, Abby, as a tough and muscular woman, while recognizing the general consensus of how people see her differently. This shows how ambitious Naughty Dogs were in making something revolutionary in the form of this game. Another striking feature is the obvious parallels in narration of the two stories that are focused on in the course of this game. From having friends of Asian origin to having similar reasons for revenge, the game forces you to erase solid lines between black and white, which it draws in the first 2 hours of its game. The story can be broadly divided in 3 parts: the beginning, the journey, and the end. The game takes off throwing your emotional equilibrium off balance, and there comes a time when you just don't want to play further. You'll very well know when this moment comes, and this would forge the reason for this new revenge story as advertised. At this point of time, newly introduced characters act as a band-aid to these gun wounds. The connection is well established, yet does not feel like its predecessor. The one thing that you would be sure about is the morality of the main character. The journey is crafted to make you forget what you're traveling for and paints your entire perception grey. It starts to torment you with information, making you feel dazed and confused, something I surely am not used to nor was expecting. It starts making you question the very foundation of this game and the main characters. This follows by a new story that will again make you play through major sections of the game without actually wanting to play. I personally played through because of the kind of weaponry that I was exposed to. Contrary to the rest of the game, you'll see decisions being made arbitrary far too often in this section of the story. The game thrives when it uses the same formula as in the previous games and makes a pair out of circumstances against the preference of the character. The sense of responsibility and fear kicks in immediately, but unlike part 1, this was short-lived. The conclusion is too much of nothing. It left me feeling several things that can be summed up in 3 emotions. First, it made me feel hollow. So much had happened till now that the conclusion made every moment, every gunshot, every wound feel baseless. You simply feel depressed for what Ellie went through, for a revenge, and in the process lost everything. After which I simply felt angry. This was a moment that can be best described as desperate, where I wanted something to have happened, something that I don't really know. The game was driven into a direction when nothing made sense anymore. It simply felt uncomfortable. Following this, I started relating the story to the reality. I realized how this game transcends from being a therapy to explaining what revenge gets you. The hollowness can easily resonate the futility of chasing revenge over anything else. This made the most sense but felt like an experiment that could have been left aside for a new IP. It's a phenomenal experience but ends with leaving you disoriented and not knowing what you want. The game is ambitious and an outstanding model of how fluid gameplay and direction can be. But what The Last of Us Part 2 fails to do is feel like Last of Us. It tries so hard to give you a different experience that by the time I was halfway through, I was already feeling uncomfortable and wanted to rush the game. Naughty Dogs execute their plan to perfection, but their plan itself feels a little too much to accept after 20 plus hours of understanding Joel and Ellie's relation in The Last of Us 1. It is a masterpiece and a must-play game, but not the successor we needed. With all that said, I'd rate this game 9.2 out of 10. For more reviews, head over to my blog GamersView9.wordpress.com. Also to give your feedback in the comment section and subscribe for future reviews and content. Till then, happy gaming.